Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Unfortunately, Kenya is also experiencing challenges with its security as the East African country has come under attack again and Al-Shabaab is responsible. Officials have confirmed that 14 gunmen from the group killed 14 people, mostly quarry workers, in an overnight attack on a residential complex in northeast Kenya, which the Islamic militant group said had targeted Christians. According to the Red Cross, many died in their sleep, and the raid in the town of Mandera is strikingly similar to one which occurred in the same county in December last year, in which 36 quarry workers lost their lives. Well, we're joined from Nairobi, Kenya by the Voice of America's Gabe Joselow. Gabe, thank you very much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Now, what more can you tell us about this unfortunate incident?
Well, as you mentioned, the attack took place overnight. A number of Al-Shabaab militants blew up a bomb outside the gates of this compound. They apparently ran inside, started firing, targeting civilians who were sleeping there. These were mostly workers who were there to work in nearby quarries and in other projects in the Mandera area. The police responded pretty soon after this bomb went off, and they were able to repel the attackers who fled supposedly across the border back into Somalia. So that's the latest information. As you said, 14 people were killed, several others were injured, but it seems like a much larger tragedy may have been avoided.
Well, now that you say a larger tragedy might have been avoided, I do have to ask you, compared to, you mentioned that the response was relatively quick. If, in hindsight, looking at what happened with the Garissa massacre and what happened overnight, what would you say was done differently by the government to probably prevent this from happening?
Well, I mean, a lot of the information we have is coming from the government itself, so take that with a grain of salt. But they say that the police responded very quickly, police who were already on patrol in the area, and also this attack took place not far from a military base. So the response was swift. There were supposedly 150 people inside that compound, which is why I say a larger tragedy could have been avoided if the Shabaab militants were able to continue the attack. You could imagine so many more lives were lost. This compared to the Garissa University attack where 148 people were killed, it's a totally different story. In that attack, the biggest problem was that the police and the military were simply too slow to respond. It took hours and hours for them to get there and to confront only a handful of militants who were inside. So I guess you could see this as a turning point or a big victory for Kenyan forces.
Well, now, Gabe, based on what you're saying about the response being a lot quicker compared to what we saw happen in Garissa, what are people saying about the government's efforts in countering the Al-Shabaab militants? Are they confident, or are they still living in fear?
Well, there's still concern, that these attacks could escalate, that anybody could be a target at any point. I think this particular incident is being seen as a bit of a victory. Even the Red Cross came out and said that that many lives were probably saved by the response of the police forces, and the Kenyan government is really playing that up. At the same time, there's still a heightened sense of fear. There have been warnings that during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan that attacks could escalate, and they have certainly escalated within Somalia. So I think that is still very much on people's minds. This just happened to be a win for the Kenyan government.
Well, are you seeing any other thing on ground that, suggests a boost in security?
It's not really apparent in Nairobi. I think there's a lot of, there's more effort to install security cameras. There's a lot of talk of beefing up security forces, of adding police to the ranks. So these efforts are still underway, and if the response early this morning was any indication, then maybe things are moving in the right direction. Again, the nature of terrorism is that it can often come in surprising ways, that it doesn't take very many people to launch a really devastating attack. So I wouldn't say Kenya is completely out of the woods, but we saw some positive signs.
Well, we do hope that the signs stay positive. Gabe Joselow, thank you very much for joining us. We're very grateful for your time. Gabe Joselow.